This is Jonathan Yates. We're back on Capitol Hill, this time talking with Congressman Roger Williams from the 25th District of Texas about what makes the culture of sports so special there. Congressman Williams, thank you for taking the time, sir.
Well, thanks for having us.
Well, in your district, you have to have the most college football power in history. You have TCU, you have Baylor, you have the University of Texas. What's it like representing three powerhouses like that in Congress?
Well, it's fun, but as you mentioned, I am a Horned Frog.
Yes, sir.
And that's where
Fear the frog.
Fear the frog. That's where my loyalty lays. But also, college football, as you know, in Texas is a big, big deal. And the great thing about college football in Texas is when we meet people, I always ask them, "What are you?" Because you're either a Mustang, a frog, a bear, a Aggie, or whatever, and then we go from there. You follow me?
Yes.
So it's a big, college football is a culture in Texas, and one that I'm excited to be a part of.
And how attractive is that culture to outsiders? Texas is attracting more businesses and residents than anywhere else in the culture in the country. College sports has to have something with that.
Well, it's a great draw. Plus, we also have no personal income tax, which
Yes.
also helps, you know. But college sports, and you talk about football,
Yes, sir.
basketball, college baseball is accelerating like we've never seen. We got just at TCU alone and UT stadiums upward to 20,000 people. Games are sold out every night.
Texas Tech is ranked number 6.
Texas Tech, exactly. TCU's been in the College World Series the last 4 years in a row. So college baseball is a big deal too. So you come to Texas, you can have sports, a steady diet of sports from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, watching your college team play.
Now, how did someone who's done more for TCU baseball than anyone else like you played, you coached, you're on the board, how'd you grow up a Ted Williams fan?
Well, when I grew up in the 50s, you were one of two persons. We all played in the backyard, right? And you were either Mickey Mantle or Ted Williams. And I wanted to be Ted Williams because he was a Williams.
Okay.
And I was born in 1949. And in history of baseball, it's the summer of '49 where the Yankees and Red Sox battled it out right to the wire with DiMaggio and Williams carrying their teams. And my grandfather named me, but he held off a day because he just couldn't decide if he wanted to name me Ted Williams or Roger Williams after the Puritan religious person. He named me Roger. I was disappointed, but maybe it was a blessing because as I later played, if I was Ted Williams coming to bat, they might have expected a lot more than they got.
Now, in coaching the baseball team up here and forming the baseball caucus, how have you found the support among the other members of Congress?
Well, it's been good. When I came up here in 2012, I noticed the disparity between Republicans and Democrats. I mean, just what it is. But I also found out and knew that baseball was a common denominator. So I started the baseball caucus. And we've got about 300 members in both parties that belong to the baseball caucus. I try to bring former players in every quarter. We've had Tommy John, we've had Brooks Robinson, we've had Ken Griffey. I've talked to Commissioner Manfred. He'll probably be our next person to come up. It's totally bipartisan. We have baseball, we have hot dogs, we have apple pie. And for an hour, it's totally where we talk baseball, nothing but baseball. So it's been a lot of fun to put that together. I do coach the congressional baseball team, which has been an honor. This game's been played 110 years. It's bipartisan. Last year, of course, we had the
tragic
shooting. But aside from that, we had 35,000 people attend the game. It's a real game. Players wear the uniforms of where they either played or the local community they represent. I had one of my friends say, if I come to that game, what's it going to be like? Watching the Yankees, Red Sox, Astros, Rangers, what's it going to be like? And I said, it's exactly the same game. There's no difference between that game and watching in Fenway Park except one thing, and that's our game is in slow motion and so forth. So it's coming up. We'll start working out here the next couple of weeks, getting ready for, I think it's June 14th. It'll be the anniversary of the shooting last year. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a serious business. Like I say, 35,000 people,
Sure.
professional umpires, and people have their favorites, and they cheer hard.
Type A personalities to the extreme, too.
Right.
What's it like trying to manage a member of
They're
Congress?
totally unmanageable. Huh? You got all these superstars, right? But when we get them on the baseball field, and with the experience I've had in playing and coaching, they do give me some benefit of the doubt. But they listen, and everybody's the same. It doesn't matter if you have seniority over the other. You got to be able to throw strikes. You got to be able to hit the ball. You got to be able to keep it in front of you, and you got to be able to win. And that's what all these guys and gals are like.
And what have you learned from both playing and coaching baseball that's helped you become so successful in both business and politics?
Well, baseball especially is really like life. As I tell young people, I talk to them a lot, and even grown-ups, baseball is the only industry I know you can fail 70% of the time and be in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
That's because the hardest thing to do in sports is hit a baseball. I mean, think about it. You got a round ball, you got a round bat, and you're trying to hit it square.
Yes.
With a curve on it.
And that was Ted Williams used to say
exactly,
that.
With a curve on it. And, Ted always said, too, you can't go to the Hall of Fame hitting ground balls. and that's like life too. So baseball is life, and if people understand that and can relate to that, which I've done all my life, they'll usually be pretty successful. But it's failing 30% of the time. You can go to the Hall of Fame. Isn't that something?
Yes.
Think of the ones that failed, that were succeeded 30% of the time. Think of the ones that failed only 20% of the time. They were that far away from being in the Hall of Fame.
What do you think would have been like if Ted Williams had not fought in Korea?
Well, and, you know, World War II and Korea, you know, and his records would have been phenomenal. I saw something the other day, someone took a computer and extrapolated, you know, his averages and gave it back to him the time he was out and so forth, and, you know, he would have hit close to 800 home runs, and he would have had 3,000 hits, and maybe 4,000 hits.
Pre-steroids era, too.
All that, you know, and so forth. So Ted Williams probably was one of the greatest hitters, and one of the great stories. Can I tell a Ted Williams story?
I'd love it.
In 1969, I had a really good year at TCU and as a hitting, and as a reward, Bobby Bragan, who was a former major league manager and so forth, and later drafted me with the Braves, he took me to Turnpike Stadium in Fort Worth to watch an exhibition game between the Senators and the Expos, and we were going to go meet Ted Williams. So we got there, and Ted was behind the batting cage watching the Senators hit. And as we began to get closer to Ted Williams, I began to forget who I was because I was getting close to Ted Williams. So finally we got there, and Bobby said, "Ted, this is Roger Williams, one of the great next Hall of Famers." And Ted had a hand this big. He stuck his hand out and shook my hand. He didn't let it go. He said, "Let me ask you something, kid. Are you a good hitter?" I said, "Yes, sir, I'm a good hitter." He said, "Well, when you're up there, can you see the ball hit the bat?" Well, I'm talking to Ted Williams,
Sure.
right? You know the answer. Your listeners know the answer. But I said, "Yes, sir, I can." He goes, "Well, I'll be damned. I've been in this business 51 years, never seen the ball hit the bat." Well, it's true, right? You lose sight of the line of about 3 foot at hand to eye. So fast forward to 3 years later, I'm with the Atlanta Braves, and we're playing the Rangers in a game. We take batting practice. The Rangers go out to take batting practice. Ted goes there. He doesn't know me from Adam, but I got my Braves uniform on. I go up to him, I said, "Ted, I'm Roger Williams. Can you see the ball hit the bat when you're up there?" He's all these damn kids, they all think they can, but they lose sight of it. I said, "You pull that stuff on me back 3 years ago and at an exhibition game, embarrass the heck out of me." So that's always a good Ted Williams story. But, you know, Ted always talked about, and Mickey Mantle was one of my favorites too, and I got to know both of them pretty well. But Ted always talked about, he asked Mickey one day, "When you're up there hitting, what are you looking for?" And Mickey said, "I just see the ball and swing." And Ted always said that he just tore him up when Mickey said that, because Mickey had so much talent, you know, that it was so natural that if he could have kind of been focused like Ted was, he really could have been even better than he was.
Now, do you ever ask the members of Congress if they can see the ball hit the bat?
Well, they don't know the answer. They don't know that answer. That's too over their head.
Now, how did Johnny Unitas end up being your favorite football player?
Well, you know, when I was growing up, you know, you were Ted Williams or you were or Mickey Mantle in
Yes.
the backyard. But when I was growing up, the big game of the history of NFL was the '58 playoff game against the Giants, and I watched that with my father in the living room in '58, and Johnny Unitas handed off to Alan the Horse Amici.
Yes.
And he went over from the 3-yard line to end that game. You remember all that?
Oh, it was before my time.
No,
but
you
I've
remember
read the books. No, that was before
okay.
my time.
And I sat there and watched it with my dad. So Unitas became one of my heroes on the football side, but I also liked him because he was the only quarterback that wore high tops. And I thought that was kind of neat, you know.
Now, when I interviewed Bob Lilly, he said, another TCU graduate,
TCU and a good friend of mine.
he said he was a Unitas fan for that reason, too. Were there a lot of Unitas fans in Texas because of that game?
Well, you got to understand, in '58, there wasn't a team in Texas.
Right.
And so it's kind of like baseball. You listen to the St. Louis Cardinals or you watch football on TV. So, you know, I mean, you kind of picked who you wanted, but who better than Unitas to pick as a winner, and a guy that wore high-top shoes and was a quarterback, and so forth. So I had my favorites. I tried to be like them. I stood like them. I threw like them. And here I am in Congress.
So, now Lilly, he was a member of the Air Force Air National Guard. Now, you were the only member of Congress to write the Commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, about players kneeling for the national anthem. What inspired you to take such a powerful position?
Well, when I saw people, when I saw athletes in any sport, but especially in the NFL, where they are, frankly, they've earned this slot to be there, but it's also a blessing to be there with the amount of attention they get, the amount of money they make, and so forth, in the greatest country in the world that offers freedom and liberty. I thought that when I saw these folks take a knee for the Star Spangled Banner, I just thought it was wrong. And I thought it was wrong. I thought you were sending the wrong message to children, the wrong message to the world, the wrong message to our military that's fighting for freedom and liberty so we can go to games on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yes.
I just thought it was the wrong thing to do, and I just think and thought that the commissioner should take leadership and remind them that we, as I said earlier, we kneel for our God and stand for our flag. And I'm proud of some of the other sports that haven't done it. Baseball hasn't done it, and so forth. So I hope that we continue to remind people that this is the greatest country in the world. Not everything's perfect.
No.
But, you know, on Sundays, people don't want to get politicized.
No,
they
sir.
want to go root for their team. And I just thought there could have been better leadership represented by the NFL than what we saw.
And what was the response from Goodell and the other members of Congress and your district?
A lot of good response from my district and members of Congress, but no response from the commissioner.
Now, your district has Fort Hood, one of the largest,
Right.
if not the largest,
largest
military base in the world. What's that like for the community of sports, the culture of sports?
Well, it's great. Representing, as I say, 342 square miles of bring it on. Fort Hood, we call it the great place.
It's the second armored, right?
Third Armored Division.
Third armored.
And we got 47,000 young men and women there today training for freedom and liberty, exercising to make our country great. And representing those is the greatest honor I have. And, of course, they love sports. I mean, you go down to Fort Hood, and if they have time, you see them playing catch. You see them tossing the ball around and that sort of thing. And I've even talked to Commissioner Manfred in Major League Baseball, our commissioner, about putting a ballpark in at Fort Hood, much like they did at Fort Bragg, and have one of the Major League teams, maybe the Astros and the Rangers, play each other in a regular season game at Fort Hood. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be fantastic. What's been the response?
And the response is great. They've already sent a group down there to study the possibility of it. So maybe we got that going. And then the other thing is, too, I've had conversation with folks in the military academies and with college football. The Army-Navy game I'd like to bring to Waco, Texas, right there at Fort Hood. The game is now being moved around, you know, to
Yes.
it's becoming an economic development issue, opportunity. And so I'd love to have it in Waco, Texas, right next to Fort Hood, where our soldiers could see Army, Navy. So we've been in communications about that also.
And how's the response from that? The liaison offices are right around the corner.
Well, the response is good. You got to meet
Great.
certain requirements. Local communities have to commit for a certain amount of money because you got to bring all the kids in and so forth, but it also brings a lot of notoriety to your community.
Now, when everybody thinks Texas, they think football, Friday Night Lights. So what's the spirit of football like in the 25th District?
Well, it's pretty good. I mean, I've got a lot of rural communities, you know, smaller schools where there's huge rivalries, and Saturday or Friday night is the night to go watch the ball game. And we've got everything from six-man football to what they call 6A football, the biggest schools,
Yes.
schools that have several thousand kids in it, all the way down to six-man football. So it's a big deal, and everybody's got their team, and everybody roots hard for that. And Friday night is a lot of fun in Texas.
Now, I interviewed an Iowa state legislator, and she was getting a new stadium in her district, and she said, I don't even like football, but I can't wait for Friday night to fire up the casseroles, fire up the deviled eggs, and head down and get together with people I haven't seen all week. What's that like in
Well,
Texas?
first of all, she couldn't win in Texas.
No.
Okay? With that comment. But
it would be barbecue, I mean.
Yeah, right. But it brings families together. It brings former teammates together. It brings former classmates together. It brings everybody together for a night of, this case, high school football. And then the great thing is, in Texas, you transition from high school football on Friday to college football on Saturday afternoon.
And so when have you seen sports bring the community together in your district? When I had Representative King here, he was talking about it was a women's basketball team in Storm Lake, Iowa, that had brought their whole community together. When have you seen that happen in your district?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to remember all of it, but just
Sure.
recently during the hurricanes, we saw, people were displaced and schools stopped and so forth, but got back to where they were playing their high school games, brought people together with that from a tragedy. So we see communities come together, good things, bad things, because of sports, going to the game, tailgating at the game, fundraising for certain things that happen. It's a great Band-Aid, if you want to call it, for issues that may not be, that happen to small communities, but it really bands people together for a common goal. It divides politics, or takes away politics, because you're rooting for your team. and that's important. And I think too, in an era where in many cases we're losing family values and the family network, that this high school sports and college sports begins to bring all that back again.
And what have you seen the impact of Title IX be in your district?
Well, Title IX has an impact. Of course, when I was in school, when I played at TCU and was in high school, no girls played any sports. Right. I mean, it was just all guys, and the girls were the cheerleaders. But now we've got such great athletes, female athletes, that do such a wonderful job, set records, and some are better than the men. They really are. And women's basketball, women's softball, are huge sports.
Dan, do you think you could get out and hit the top softball pitcher?
No question about it.
Could you see the ball hit the bat?
No question about it. Aluminum bats and steroids, right? But in answer to your question, Title IX, of course, has affected colleges. It's enabled the young girls of sports to be able to realize dreams all the way through college and even professionally. So I think it's been a great thing.
And now, up here in Congress, you started the baseball caucus. Do you see that drawing more and more members? For the first time in a long time, there are no former professional athletes in Congress. There used to be Jim Bunning,
He's gone.
Bill Bradley, guys like that.
Well, I'm the only one that I know of.
From your experience with the Braves.
Yeah, and the caucus is going to grow. It's growing. I have people ask me, when are we going to meet again? On the other side, it's not like, everybody's got a baseball story. And they want to know when we're meeting, who's our next speaker, and so forth. Of course, now everybody's excited when you're going to start baseball practice and get ready for the game in June. So it's been a good thing. And I also started the College Football Caucus. I serve on the board.
Tell us about that.
I serve on the board of the College Football Foundation in New York. That puts the Hall of Fame members together and everything. I've been on that board. Steve Hatchell's our chairman. Archie Manning, a lot of folks that people have heard of. And so I started the College Football Caucus. With the foundation and with Steve Hatchell and with Archie Manning. And now we have quarterly meetings bringing college football people in. Our first meeting was Barry Switzer came in, did a fantastic job. It was attended by the same people, the baseball caucus. So a lot of people refer to me as the athletic director of Congress right now.
Now, speaking of athletic directors, University of Texas just hired one of the finest ones away from TCU and Chris Del Conte. What are you looking for from him as a...
Well, Chris is a good friend of mine, and we got him at TCU. I guess he's been with us about 10 years now. Time flies, but he came from Rice and did a great job. I mean, took TCU to unprecedented levels for the last 25 years.
They were ranked 9th last year.
Ranked 9th. We won 11 games. Gary Patterson's done a great job. I mean, just TCU, we're the smallest school in the Big 12. A lot of people don't realize that. They think you're upward 20, 30,000 like everybody else, but we're not. We've got a great story to tell. Our last year we won 11 football games. Our baseball team goes to College World Series, and our basketball team wins the NIT. We had the national champions in rifle. It goes on and on and on, and so forth. So Chris now then has left. Now go to the University of Texas. We were TCU people hated to lose him.
Sure.
But I made the comment to a lot of my buddies that were complaining. I said, when in your life did you ever think the University of Texas would want the TCU athletic director? And that speaks highly for where we are at TCU. And then I have the honor of representing the University of Texas in Congress. And now Chris is down there. Had lunch with him the other day, and we were kidding him. I told him, I said, you're going to have a heck of a garage sale and get rid of all those purple suits and start wearing those orange suits.
Well, I'm sure there's any number of members of Congress who'll be buying those.
Those purple suits,
yes,
right? So anyway, but he's a good man, and we've also now got great leadership back at TCU. So that's the way it works, Sports advances people, and whether it's on the field or in the executive area, it's a good thing.
A lot of people don't realize that Texas has an outstanding wine country now, in addition to with the other activities. So what's the culture of sports like in Texas for outdoor activities such as hunting and fishing and hiking?
Well, Texas is Texas. I mean, you go from the top of Amarillo right down to Brownsville, from Texarkana to El Paso. Texas is really, really big, and we got mountains, and we got prairies, and we got palm trees, and we got all kinds of things, in Texas. So hunting and fishing is a big part of what recreation we have in Texas, and you can go anywhere. Of course, cattle, rodeos is another sport. That's the sport of Texas right there. The two biggest lies in Texas. Do you know what they are?
No, hit the ball. You can see the ball hit the bat.
Two biggest lies in Texas are my pickup truck is paid for, and I won this belt buckle in the rodeo.
Well, how big is the rodeo in your district?
Well, we have a lot of rodeos. The biggest indoor rodeo is right there.
In Houston, right?
Well, you got Houston and you got Fort Worth. And then in between you got a lot of rodeos in between it, and a lot of weekly rodeos. There's a lot of Wednesday night rodeos, Saturday night rodeos. You go and it's just tremendous, and it's real cowboys, and it's people that can tell you how much a round bale weighs and how much a square bale weighs. And they're driving a truck.
A round bale or a square bale would be?
Well, a square bale weigh about 90 pounds, and a round bale about 1,200.
Now, how's the culture for the rodeo different than the culture for the Friday night football games in your district?
Well, I don't know that it's too much different. It's fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's contact sport, right?
Yes.
It's pretty much in your face.
Yes.
The rodeo, he's dealing with the animal. The high school kids are dealing with that guy across the line from him, or that guy on the pitcher's mound.
Yes.
But it's all the same thing. You've got a time clock, right? And you got fans, and people are either rooting for the bull or rooting for the cowboy.
And so who are you rooting for in the game, though? That's a big question. Can you pick sides like you do for the cowboy and the bull?
Well, I pick the sport. I want to always have a good game. But I'm a TCU guy. I mean, I've told my friends at the University of Texas, I'm going to pull for you 11 times a year, And then I always root for the cowboy, all right?
Yes.
And, of course, I love the Dallas Cowboys, and I love the Texas Rangers, and I love the Houston Astros. So we got a lot of winners we can choose from.
Well, certainly this year with the Astros, that is for sure. Now, there's more and more people moving for Texas, more and more businesses. What would you say to Jeff Bezos as the reason he should bring Amazon to Texas?
Well, he needs to come to Texas. If he cares about his employees, he'll come to Texas where we've got no personal income tax.
Yes.
He actually can give his employees a raise and not give them a raise, okay? We got quality of life, just the stuff we've been talking about today, all right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got Texas values.
Now, what are those Texas values?
Well, I guess you'd say Texas is all about fairness,
Mm-hmm.
family values, a love of God, a love of state, a love of country. Those are Texas values. They sound pretty simple, but candidly, there's a lot of places that don't have all those values together, you see?
And how do you see those reflected in sports?
Well, I think you see it because I think you see the parents involvement. Mm-hmm. I think you see things like PTAs. I think you see kids at elementary level making signs and banners for their high school team or their junior high team where their brother or sister plays. There's a lot of family involvement. You go to a high school game or a junior high game or a little league game, families and parents are involved. And I think that's important. And I think, frankly, that we have a big military presence in Texas has a lot to do with that, a lot of patriotism, a lot of, yes, like I said, love of country, love of state. I mean, you look at our capital of Texas. Texas is the only state in the union has the capital higher than the U.S. capital.
Yes.
And that was the deal that we made. We're the only one that can, as they say, secede from the union. That kind of used to be that way, and so forth. So Texas is unique, and we got our economy is almost like, if you take our Texas economy, it's the 9th largest in the world. So we got a lot going for us.
Now, what would a weekend be if I were to come down and go to a Friday night football game, Saturday UT, TCU, and then Sunday go to a Cowboys game?
Well, that's a good weekend, isn't it?
Huh? Can it be topped anywhere?
Well, I guess you could say you could be topped, or it would be the same if Friday night we go to a high school baseball game. Friday evening we go watch the Rangers and Astros play, mm-hmm, great rivalry, right?
Yes.
Or Sunday we do that, and Saturday we go watch TCU play Texas in baseball. So you got high school baseball, college baseball, and the big league. So you couple that with football, you're pretty good. That's a pretty good weekend. Now, and then we throw a little barbecue in there.
Yes.
Right.
Now, I've interviewed a lot of the former Dallas Cowboys for a book I wrote, and one thing I noticed that no matter where they were from, they ended up staying in, mm-hmm, Texas.
Right.
Why do you think that is for those athletes?
President Bush always told us this in Washington. He said, remember this, all roads lead back home to Texas, and how true that is. And I think people don't leave Texas, they don't leave local communities because of just the things we've been talking about, Texas values, and the weather. We got great weather, yes, and values, so much to do. And so there's no reason you would want to leave Texas. Plus, it's easy getting out of Texas. You can fly into DFW, you can fly, yes, into Houston, get in, get out, and all that counts. But if you're a sports person, there's so much sports around here. And the great thing about Texans is we remember you. So if you played for the Rangers or you played for the Cowboys, you had a great college career. People remember that. And frankly, if you're a former athlete, you like to be remembered because every year you do get better.
Now, there are 53 members of Congress who were former athletes at D1 schools. Can you see that? Can you tell from a member of Congress who is an athlete by the way they know how to cooperate and move the ball forward?
I think you can tell a person if they played even just high school sports.
And how's that?
With just the way their demeanor, the way they act, the way they talk. Now, when I can look at guys pretty much and tell you if they're an athlete or not. I can tell you on the baseball field, I can hit ground balls to my colleagues and hit fly balls and watch them swing the bat at age 65 or 70. And I can look at them, I can tell you that they were pretty good players 40, 50 years ago.
Can you tell who grew up getting the participant ribbon?
Well, when this group grew up, there wasn't a participant ribbon.
Now, you think that's a good or bad thing?
No, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Now, they don't give it in your district? Not even in Austin?
No,
Not even in Austin
look,
that has a bumper sticker, keep Austin weird.
Look, there should not be a trophy for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, you need to strive
I agree
for
with you,
victory,
by the way.
All right? And victory is great and defeat is horrible. And, I think the idea of a trophy for everybody or a ribbon for everybody, that takes the drive and the desire out of, I got to hang in there, I got to score this point, I got to get that yard, I got to get that hit. That's what it's all about. That's what puts people on the edge of their seats. That's why people buy season tickets. That's why people go to ball games, is to see that moment, that fourth and goal with 10 seconds to go. That 3-2 pitch with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. That's what you strive for. You can't take that away from people.
Do you think anything else brings people together like sports?
Not in my life it hadn't. I've been so sports oriented, but I know people my daughters did ballet. That brought my family together, but I was fidgeting all the time, and so forth. But sports.
Herschel Walker did ballet, remember?
Yeah, but sports brings it. And everybody's got a sports story, and everybody's got a baseball story. Whether you're a man or a woman, everybody's got a story. And sports brings it to you. And you can see parents get involved sometimes too much.
Yes.
Put pressure on their kids. Let the kids play, but there's going to be winners. There's going to be losers. And if you didn't win this time, you need to play harder so you can win next time.
Now, you're a very effective member of Congress and very courageous, willing to take a stand. How has sports contributed to that?
Well, I mean, it's my background, Only thing I can reflect to when I have to make a decision, what did I do when I was coaching, or what did I do in business? But it's not hard. I mean, you're not going to win every time, but you're going to give it your best shot. You're going to swing for the fences. You're going to swing from the heels. You're going to, try to hit the corner of the plate. Anything you can do to get the edge. But it's just make sure you don't get out-hustled and outworked.
Now, should I look for you at the TCU-UT game this year?
We're playing in Austin, Texas, I think.
That's exactly right.
So I'll be there. I'll be there. We go to every TCU home game, and I try to get to the away games, but if not, we watch it on the screen. We watch UT the same way. I just had that one game, I'm pulling for the Horned Frogs. And I think, TCU is going to have a good year. Texas is going to have a good year. All the schools.
So if I go wearing purple, repping Frog Nation, give me 2 tickets for that game?
Yeah, I can get you 2 good. That'd be good ones, too.
I look forward to it, Congressman.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you for the time.
Okay.
It's Jonathan Yates from Capitol Hill. Thank you for joining us.